I'm joined tonight by one of the top middleweight contenders in the country, and you can catch his next fight. That'll happen at LFA 174. We'll be taking on Maurice Morris. Wes Schultz joins me today from Wisconsin. Wes, welcome to the show, sir. I'm a big fan of you, and I've liked watching you fight over these past couple of years.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
It is an absolute privilege, and I did kind of want to hit a little broadly. Here we are, roughly 10 days out from your bout. It's the very first LFA card of 2024. How excited are you to be a part of it?
I'm pumped up. I'm pumped up, especially just starting off the year, getting a fight in January. I mean, ideally, you get 4 fights in a year, starting out early. That's what I wanted to do last year. Didn't quite happen. We got one in January, one in May. And then just nothing really materialized for the rest of the year, which was unfortunate. But getting started this early at least keeps that possibility open.
Wes, you were spectacular in your most recent bout. I watched that performance. You're able to end this fight relatively quickly. Can you tell me a little bit, kind of going in there, getting back into the flow of things, like how happy were you with your last performance? Because I thought it was very impressive.
I really liked my composure and just ability to just trust my hands and just kind of getting in there and getting dirty, not being too stale right off the bat, which I think in the last one, the one prior to that, right about a year ago, I was a little hesitant right off the bat, and I ended up getting a broken nose in the first 15 seconds. So being able to kind of snap out of that pre-fight haze and just getting right into it. Which, I mean, that's more mental than skill. But I mean, I was pleased with the skills I displayed as well. I rushed the flying knee a little bit. I hit him with a 2, and then I tried running in with a flying knee, and I think I hit him damn near my crotch instead. It probably looked dumb, but I don't know. I thought it was going to look sick, so I went for it. Fuck it.
Well, you went for it indeed. You ended up getting a very impressive finish. It was very, very cool to see. Like, I looked at you and you were like doing a lot of things and like showing a lot of stuff I've never seen you really do before. And when I think of you, I think of 2 things. I think wrestling and I think of jiu-jitsu primarily. And you're like throwing all kinds of different things in your last fight I hadn't seen before. And I was hoping we could talk a little bit about like Muay Thai and like striking. Like, how is those areas of your MMA game kind of beefed up over the years?
Well, when I first started striking, I'd been grappling for a long, long time, most of that wrestling based. And I found with wrestling, you could almost get further quicker by being more unorthodox. But then as you advance in like competition, the basics are what's going to keep you winning, and it's hard to develop them later. So I really tried to just like hone down basic striking, footwork, breathing, everything that maybe some people, it's not flashy, so some people don't like it. But I felt like I kind of got that at least down enough to be proficient at a professional level. And so it allowed me to kind of open up my striking a little bit. And if I do wind up on the ground throwing something dumb, fuck it. I'm not I'm on the ground. Cool, this is where I want to be.
And that's like one of the real like interesting things about you. Like, it's very obvious you have a wrestling base, but like I would say like you're different from like your stereotypical wrestling based MMA fighter. Like you do things on the ground that I'm just not used to seeing, right? Like you'll get like a double leg, and then like what do you see most wrestlers do? Posture up, rain blows. And then, when they turn their back, go for the rear naked choke. Like, you pass guard, you go for anacondas, you do all sorts of like other things that, I don't know, just kind of like throws me for a loop. And can you tell me a little bit about like just your jiu-jitsu background? Like, how did you get so well versed in this? Because you look very, very advanced and very, very comfortable in that department.
Well, a part of that was just kind of like I was able to be a little faster and looser with my jiu-jitsu than I was with my striking right off the bat, because I've been grappling for so long. And just, I mean, my wrestling style was never like really hard hitting, like an Iowa style, where it's just like eating nails for breakfast, tough. It's always kind of just like going where there's openings and trying to exploit them. Which, I mean, it seems like an odd, like who doesn't try to do that? But my grappling style really pushes that point and just taking what they give me, which I find it easier, like cardio wise. I'm not really spending that much energy. It's kind of like a low energy, go with the flow type of style, and then I can turn it up if I need to. But the goal is usually to keep it at a pace that I'm making my opponent work harder than me.
Absolutely. Well, Wes, here you are. You're 5 fights into this professional career so far. You've been very impressive so far. And like when you look at like kind of like the landscape of just what the middleweight division looks like at this point, like where do you kind of like see yourself like in the pecking order in terms of just the middleweight contenders throughout the country? Would you do you think like you're relatively close to maybe taking the next step and like competing for like an LFA title or something like that at some point?
Yeah, I definitely see myself and a few of my teammates as just being the top of the middleweight pecking order regionally. And maybe even like interregionally, like other parts of the country, we'd also be top of the line there. Definitely getting ready for that jump to maybe bigger promotions if if this goes well, if things go well, maybe a few more wins this year. But I'm really enjoying just like I've had so much fun in my amateur career, my last 5 pro fights. I'm really enjoying the process.
Your next opponent, Maurice Morris, tough guy, 3-bout winning streak. All 3 of his wins have been coming by stoppage. So I can understand why the matchmakers put this together. Like, you're a big, tough guy. Like, you've been very successful. I would say the exact same thing about your opponent. When you got his name, you got this like contract. Like, how excited were you to know that you get to challenge yourself against a guy of this caliber? I look at Maurice Morris. I think he's pretty impressive, just like you.
Well, I'm jealous of how active he is. Who couldn't be? I think he started doing this 2 years ago, and he's got, I think, 4 Emmy fights and 9 pro fights. That is nuts. That is some early 2000s type shit.
Like, what are some of the things like about his game, like stylistically, that you kind of like taken notice of? Does he do anything that stands out to you that you think that that he does particularly well?
Well, I think he's not afraid to go in there and throw, but also he'll be hitting takedowns. His fights are not boring, and I like that. And so it's made watching film pretty easy because he's a guy you like to watch.
When you look at him, like one of the things that I noticed is like the variance in the weight classes. Like, he's competed at heavyweight before, he's competed at middleweight before. I think that's kind of cool. Now this will be his 2nd or 3rd time, I want to say, in 185 pounds. He's been typically fighting at these like bigger weight classes. Is that an advantage in your mind? Like, you have the 185 pretty dialed in, and he hasn't been doing it for a while. Do you feel like that kind of being well versed in that cut gives you an extra advantage going into this, or am I making a bigger deal out of it than what it is?
I mean, it could be, but even like I've been doing weight cuts since I've been probably like 13, 14. To just pick this up at like 29, 30 and have the mental toughness to do that. I think that says something more about just his mindset than anything. Mm-hmm. Just being able to, it'd be like tough if I stopped for like 3 or 4 years and had to, come back and do it, but to never have done it and then just start doing it as a grown man. Yeah, I just think that says something about his mindset and the fact that he really likes doing these fights and that he really wants to be in there, which pumps me up.
So for you to get a win over a guy like Maurice Morris, like without giving away game plans, I'm not going to ask you anything like that, but just in a broader sense, like what are some of the things that you think you're going to need to do in order to get your 5th professional victory over this guy?
He's going to be a lot more used to walking into cages in the last 8-9 months than I am. Mm-hmm. I have more experience as far as like, the time I've been in the sport, but there's a fairly few guys that have been fighting as much as he is and winning. There's regional cans that'll fight every other week for fucking child support or whatever. but a good guy with a winning record fighting that frequency, I feel like you almost get into a rhythm where it seemed like you have some momentum, and he's coming off a 3-fight win streak. I guess he'd probably have more momentum than me coming into this fight, and I don't know where I was really going with that, but you know what I mean, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you feel like you have a grappling advantage over him?
Yeah, I would. I feel like I do, but I can still see him probably gonna go for some takedowns, because he's not a dude that it does not strike me that he's afraid of too much.
I would also say the same thing about you, though. You don't strike me as the type of guy that's afraid of too much. Like, you've been, I would call you pretty battle tested. Like, the Budka fight was very impressive to me. I mean, he kind of had like that 1,000-yard stare at the very end of that fight, and I think you earned his respect at the very end of that fight. And he's since moved on, and now he's in the UFC. And you know, I think that's a pretty big testament to just kind of how close you are.
Yeah, we did kind of beat the shit out of each other that fight. That was actually a good time. That was a good time. He's a good guy. We gotta get some training in sometime. But yeah, but I'm more battle tested like over the years. But as far as like recent, and it's almost, I think John Danaher, as I don't want to be like a cringy jiu-jitsu bro, bringing up Danaher, Papa Danaher. But he'll talk about how you can beat someone that is more experienced than you just by like concentrating your training in like one area, and then it's almost like having like a local superiority in like one area, and then forcing action to that area where you were better at. And with him being so busy, I feel like, how could you have any rust stepping into the cage versus like, I think I've taken like 8 months off, which for some people isn't that long, but for me, that's a while. Like I've been busier than that pretty much my whole career. So, I mean, hence why I was so eager to take this on 4 weeks notice.
Just well, that's better than 5 hours.
Yeah, that's true. I've done that before.
Yes, you have. Well, Wes, I'm really excited about this fight. I look at Maurice Morris. I'm like, yep, he's a highly skilled guy just like you, and this is going to be happening at LFA 174. I just kind of wanted to ask you before I let you go, like fighting with LFA just in general, that you fought for them several times before. What's kind of your experience been like with this promotion so far?
Very professional organization. I don't really have any complaints about any organizations I've fought with, but LFA, you can tell like you're getting closer to the big show. Even fighting on the shows when I was like an amateur, you haven't seen too much. It just feels like, oh man, this is kind of big time here. The only thing I wish that they do is maybe it's just at Mystic Lake, but they always have the registration meeting and then the weigh-in.
Oh man!
So like you cut your weight, you walk down to the weighing room. Everyone's sitting there with their food and Gatorade. They're like, "What the fuck, man? Let's get this show on the road." And then you gotta sit there and fill out paperwork and stuff, which never really hurts me too bad because I'm used to cutting, but still, it's just like, God damn it, we're here. The scale's here.
I'd be cranky.
Yeah. No, yeah, I do feel like the whole room is fucking pissed every time.
Well, Wes, I'm really looking forward to watching you perform here later on this month. It's going to be quite a treat. I look at you and I think about the middleweight division. I'm just like, man, like at that next level in MMA, I feel like there are a ton of opportunities for guys like you. Like I feel like with the UFC, you looked at the ranked guys and you look outside of the ranked guys, like the unranked guys that compete at middleweight. You got to be looking at some of them and be like, man, I wish I could fight this guy. Yeah,
it's pretty slim pickings up there, man. That's not a huge, deep weight class. I always feel bad for like 35. Is like if I was 135 pounds, like shit, like would I do this fucking split? Like,
I mean, yeah, it just seems like impossible. Like at times, like for certain weight classes, it definitely seems like the's a higher bar compared to others. But I look at middleweights, I'm like, man, like I feel like there's a lot of opportunities there.
That is the truth. And yeah, especially when you know, I don't want to sound like a tool again, but sometimes you'll be seeing like an unranked middleweight match, and it's like, fuck, man, this ain't you know, at one point looking at those guys, you know, maybe when I first started, it's like, oh my gosh, how are they going for 15 minutes? Oh, they're getting hit. And now I'm thinking like,
well, Wes, I don't think you're too far off, and you know, you get a win over this guy that puts you at 5-1, and you know, here we are in the first quarter of 2024 with Contender Series. They're going to be starting that up later on this spring, or this summer, I should say, and that's probably got to be something that you and your management are probably keeping a close eye on.
Well, hopefully I can get this win, and then I'll be in striking distance for that. Maybe one more, because as I said earlier, I do like staying busy. But hopefully no more than 2 more. But then again, I like doing this. You know what I mean? If I didn't like doing this just to do it, I'd go get a job at fucking Best Buy or some shit. But I dig fighting, and I'll do it regardless of what my future looks like in it.
Well, Wes, I dig talking to you, and I hope that we can do this again for your next fight. And I really more of an opportunity than anything. I know that you have a lot of teammates that help you get ready for these fights, and you have sponsors and all that other stuff. So if there's anyone that you'd like to thank, sir, before I let you go, let's do it.
Boy, Dylan Budka and Nick Klein, man. Those are my two other 2 middleweights at my gym that we're all in striking distance. Probably coming up this year, bigger leagues, and we've all been doing this together for years and just kicking ass on the regional scene. So probably those 2 guys.
All right. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you watch Wes Schultz fight at LFA 174. He's going to put on a show for you guys. Wes, I appreciate your time. I look forward to having you back very soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.